Let's roll the intro credits. Well, greetings one and all. Welcome back to the Mr. Garrison Film Reviews channel. It is now time for the main event and the conclusion for the whole entire year, as any member of the network or any YouTuber in general who is a film enthusiast, anybody's going to be going over their top 10 or top 5 or top 15 or maybe top 20 or top 12 or whatever number it may be of their best and worst films of 2017. Now, for the past few years of reviewing, 2015 was an interesting year. That's when I did my first time doing it. Well, a list in general. It was interesting. 2016 was a polarizing year. And 2017, the best word I can describe this year is interesting. I mean, we've had some good movies. We've had some bad movies. We've had some amazing movies. And we've had some shitty movies. Now, there's a difference within all the words of how I'm describing it. But yeah, the right word to say is interesting. So dead down 50-50 in the center. And obviously, folks, if you can tell, I am dressed up for the occasion looking fucking sexy. But folks, before we get to the first list, now, last year I went over the worst films first with The Young Assassin. Will you see him tomorrow for the next video? You may never know, because for this case, instead of going over the worst, we're going to be going over the best films of 2017 first. Now, before we get to the top 10... here's another list I'm going to go over for you all, and that is my top 5 biggest surprises of this whole entire year, my surprising films of 2017. Now, before I'm going to go over this quickly for you all. Now, for these 5 films that were really surprising, I'm just going to sum it up real quick of all these films together. It caught my attention by surprise either from the trailers that it was not going to be either a good film because of how it looks from the trailers, or from who's playing it, who's directing it, and who's writing the script and whatnot. It just came off to me like, some of these films aren't going to be good at all. Now, I may be a little now with one of these films, I was a little biased, and as for what that is, I'll say what that one is when we get to the top 5. But there's another film I will say that took me by surprise, because I was talking so much shit about this particular film, because I was not looking forward to it whatsoever, because I thought this film was going to be a ripoff, and if you know what I'm hinting there, I think you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But folks, let's go over the top 5 biggest surprises of 2017 real quick. Alright, starting at number 5, Jigsaw. Now, with Jigsaw, I've been saying that from the trailers that I was interested, and in my review, it was not like any other Jigsaw film that I've seen to an extent. But yes, Jigsaw. Number 4, Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man Tells No Tale. Number 3, Brigsby Bear. Number 2, A Cure for Wellness. And number 1, this is the film that I was talking so much trash about, and I call this a ripoff of The Book of Life. But this film was nowhere near as The Book of Life. And that number 1, my biggest surprising film of 2017, goes to Coco. So yeah, folks, that is that. So, just want to get that done quick and short, sweet, to the point. Now, let's get to the best films of 2017 along with honorable mentions. Alright folks, before we even bother getting down to the number 10, I got a few honorable mentions I'm going to mention that was on the list for a while, but as time progresses, I've seen more and more movies, and surprisingly, these films were either staying in the top 5, or surprisingly, staying in the top 10 in general, but unfortunately, these particular movies were just in the final cut for the honorable mentions, and knowing me, I usually have either 6 or 7, but for this case, I have 7 honorable mentions, and this goes for both best and worst. Now, for the 7 honorable mentions I have, here they are. The Lego Batman movie, Beauty and the Beast, Gerald's Game, Detroit, Get Out, A Cure for Wellness, and the biggest surprise of them all that's going to make people say, Mr. Garrison, how could you? War for the Planet of the Apes. Leave your surprising hate comments down below. I'll be expecting it. But anyways, folks, let's get down to the number 10. Coming in at number 10 is a movie starring an actor that I worship like he is God or Jesus or whoever. Because, knowing me, I have a big boner for him even though I am a straight dude. As for what this actor is, his name is Tom Cruise, and he's played in a lot of movies. And no, we're not talking about The Mummy, because that is not even on this list at all. No. It's maybe a guilty pleasure of mine, but getting to the point of this, he played in a movie that was surprisingly really good, and I mean good is an understatement. He was superb in this film. This film is centering around a biopic about a guy who was on a mission to go across the country, about drug smugglers and save the country from a lot of shit that was going on. And boy, this movie was truly incredible, especially showcasing that in-depth look of that particular situation that was going on. My number 10 is American Made. Now, this is a film that is probably not on a lot of people's list, but it's sure as hell on mine. Why? Because this movie was just incredible. Showcasing all the events of this guy who was just working as a pilot in general, then asked by the government to go on this mission of serving for the country of these particular situations that was going on at the time, and he had to do something to stop it up to leading up to his death, which was quite unexpected, especially how it was showcased. But yeah, like I usually do, I keep all my points short and simple to the point. But yes, number 10 is American Made. Coming in at number 9 now, for this particular film, this is extremely low on my list. Why? Because I've seen a lot of films as time progressed that, managed to gain that particular rating, which was a 5, and by the way, all these movies that is on my list, this is what I gave a 5 out of 5 to. Now, as for this film right here, this is arguably known as is the best superhero film of the year. Now, for me, this ain't my best superhero film of the year, but there is a film that I will mention later on as this list progresses that is my best superhero film of the year, and this is my second one. Now, for this film, this was a superhero film, or should I say a Western superhero film, because this particular film did not feel like your average superhero movie at all. Why? Because this particular film, it had that old school style Western atmosphere to it. All the action scenes, the story between X-Men is, his final curtain call, and the connection between Hugh Jackman and Patrick Stewart, that final connection one more time in these particular movies, which was a franchise and a legacy within the superhero genre, and specifically X-Men in general. I think you know what I'm talking about. My number 9 is Logan. This film was just an emotional ride, along with the next generation of superheroes to come. I think you know exactly who I'm talking about, his daughter. But yes, what really set this film was not only the story, leading up from the beginning to the end, but all the action sequences, that classic Western old school vibe that was there, the connection between that you always love of Patrick Stewart and Hugh Jackman. You can't get enough of those two at all when you see them perform. So yes, that ending, one of the most emotional endings of the whole entire year, because you folks knew or know that this was going to be it, and this was it. So yeah, Logan, emotional movie, that is my number 9. Coming in at number 8 is a movie that a lot of people are putting in their top 5 or staying in their top 10 like me. Now, this particular film, from a lot of the lists I've seen, this particular film is in this particular number, and that is the number 8 spot, and I guess I'm one of those people who has this movie as their number 8. Now, I know for a fact there's about a couple people, like 1 or 2 out there, who has this film as their number 1 or number 2, hell, again, top 5. But for me, this is my number 8, and this film, I mentioned in my review that this is a film that had such great connection, such chemistry between the two, such phenomenal acting starring James Franco as Tommy Wiseau. I think you know what I'm talking about, because that was a big fucking hint right there. But the connection between all the actors and actresses leading up to how this particular film was created. The Room, which is arguably known as the best worst film ever made. Also, this film showcased the in-depth look of how the room was made and all the details of, well, what you saw in the room. And the film itself is self-explanatory, giving in all that in-depth detail of what happened to make the room. But most of all, this film was inspirational. It was motivational. And not only were those two words incorporated in this film, but also showcased comedic value that added those two words mixed in together. But yeah, my number 8 is The Disaster Artist. This film was truly incredible. James Franco, who is my best actor to win the award, or my best actor who deserves to win an Oscar for this particular performance, because he was Tommy Wiseau. Not the James Franco that I know and love seeing. He was Tommy Wiseau. Played that role superbly. Is that a real word? Superbly? No? Coming in at number 7 is a film that was just mind-blowing within storytelling. Now, I'm going to be saying that particular sentence a lot. Why? Because it's true. And for one of the best original films all year, because let me tell you right now, throughout 2017, there was quite a bundle of films that came out that had an original story to them, and this is one of those films. Elizabeth Olsen and Jeremy Renner, the connection between those two, it was just unbelievable. Jeremy Renner, who was on duty at the time on his little mobile, and all of a sudden he comes across this dead body of a Native American girl, age 18, I believe, if memory speaks, who was brutally raped and murdered, and there goes this ongoing investigation leading up to, you know what, who, what, where, when, and why, how this murder happened, who did it, when, where. Well, again, I'm just repeating myself there. But along the way, trouble hits Jeremy Renner and Elizabeth Olsen's characters. As for what happens, it was just mind-blowing. In the final showdown that happened, oh my god, it was just so freaking suspenseful. But yeah, I think it's quite obvious. My number 7 is Wind River. It was the whole entire storytelling. It was the showdown, the connections between not only of Olsen and Renner, but it was between both the natives and the natives and the Americans in general. It was the connection between the two, you know, going on of a believable investigation that you can see actually happen. But yeah, again, the whole film was just believable, and it was just so superb how this film progressed. Just so amazing. But yeah, Wind River, number 7. Coming in at number 6 is a jaw-dropping superhero film that I just couldn't believe what my 4 eyes saw. Now, this particular movie, now, we all know about DC Universe. We've heard about their films that they released that were pretty bad. Batman vs. Superman and, you know, the whole Justice League, which I didn't see at all this year, and I should probably say thank my twinkly stars. Yeah? But my number 6... this is the best superhero film I've seen since Man of Steel. DC speaking. This film was just wow. The director of this film, along with the actors, how they worked together, they didn't let Hollywood or anyone else fuck with them while making this movie, because they knew exactly what they were doing. And Gal Gadot, who is one of the best actresses all year playing as this character, because she was this female character. And let me tell you all right now, my number 6 is Wonder Woman. Now, Wonder Woman in general, who is arguably known as one of the greatest superhero characters ever, and known as one of the most inspirational, along with looked upon as one of the greatest, well, superhero films in general. I'm probably just repeating myself right now, but she's looked upon as the greatest female superhero. This film, the storytelling, going into in-depth look of the origins of who Wonder Woman is, how she became who she is, leading up to the sequel that is going to supposedly in the works right now, being written. Yeah, I think that's what's going on. But yeah, Wonder Woman, this film was just unbelievable. Some beautiful cinematography. The screenplay that was written was just so superb. And everything, every little detail that you see, you couldn't even see that coming at all. Because while watching this movie, I just couldn't believe everything that was going on. I mean, just like with Man of Steel, to compare it to that, It was just that dark, in-depth look of how the superhero originated, who she is, where she came about, and how she got her powers leading up to making a name for herself. It was just everything that I love seeing in a superhero film. Now, knowing me as a guy who is picky with superhero films in general, I have moments where there's certain things I want to see, specific superheroes that I would love to see a movie made of, and finally a Wonder Woman movie was made in modern times, and it was just everything I love seeing in a superhero film, and in this film, showcased beautifully. Number 6 is Wonder Woman. Oh boy, folks, I can't believe it. We are now into the top 5. Yeah, that's right, the top 5. Now, you're probably thinking to yourself, a lot of the films I mentioned already that is in the from 10 to 6 should be in the top 5, but no. These are the top 5 right here. This is it. The final curtain call. Okay, this is a film that I had a horrible theater experience with, and if you've seen Flicks with the Dicks or know me personally, I've told the story multiple times. I went to a theater to see this movie. A couple guys were sitting next to me talking throughout the whole thing, and it ruined the theater experience for me. But when it came out, I saw it again and managed to get my theater experience back. But overall, this film cannot beat my rating because this was one of my most anticipated sequels of the whole entire year. And furthermore, this was my most anticipated film of the whole entire year. And this came out in February. And I was not disappointed. All I was expecting for this movie was to be awesome. I mean, I knew a sequel was going to be in play, and for a fact, this is going to be a trilogy, because they're in the works of making a third film, and the second one was just absolutely outstanding, because let me tell you right now, this leads up to the events of who John Wick is and what continues on, wanting to settle down and not want to bother being a hitman anymore, but no. Everybody was after him, and it contains, to me, the best action scene of the whole entire year. And this is my best action film of the year. John Wick Chapter 2, baby. It was just my best film of that particular year, 2014 to be exact. Yeah. But this film, I was expecting for this to be my best film of 2017, but no. The ones that are in my top 4, surprisingly was able to beat John Wick 2, and, what can I say? I love action, and the action for this film was just badass, and that's all I wanted to see from this film, was just a badass film, and my expectations lived up, and I can't wait for the third one. Also contained my best ending of the year was that suspense leading up, because in John Wick Chapter 3, it's going to be John Wick versus everyone. Will he live, or will he die? I can't wait to see John Wick 3. Coming in at number 4 is a movie that contains one of, or should I say, the best original screenplay. Oh wait, excuse me. One of the best original screenplays of the year. Edgar Wright, he's done it again. This guy has not made a bad movie at all, and I would have loved to see him do Bill and Ted Face the Music, but that's not happening, sadly, because if Edgar Wright did write the script or could direct Bill and Ted 3, we could have had ourselves a genuine masterpiece right there. But no, we got some other bozo doing it. But no more about Bill and Ted 3, Face the Music. We're going to talk about Baby Driver. This film was just unbelievable. Best film editing of the whole entire year, guys. Within all the scenes that was going on when it comes to driving, chasing, shooting, one thing that was truly incredible about this movie was the music that was edited into all the sounds that was going on. It was some superb film editing, and boy, I have not seen editing like that in either a long time or never, because the editing for that was just superb. The soundtrack for this movie was, knowing me, contained a lot of Motown music along with some modern stuff. Baby, who is one of the most relatable characters throughout the whole entire year, or is the most relatable character of the year, it depends how you look at it, he was just superb, and for me, I can relate to him to an extent because he surrounds his life around music, and knowing me, I think that's a no-brainer. How he comes off and just a guy who's trying to escape from the mafia and just wanting to cruise down the road, listen to music with his girl. Yeah, man, that's the life he wants to live. Just something basic and simple, but he had his own problems ahead, and it was just an action-packed thriller suspense of how he was trying to break away from his problems and just to live a basic life after breaking away from his troubles. But yeah, Baby Driver, this movie was amazing. Now, I've seen some lists so far. This is a lot of people's number one, which doesn't surprise me in a good way. Why? Because this movie's fucking amazing. So yeah, Baby Driver, number 4. Coming in at number 3 is, to me, the best animated film of the whole entire year, and this is the film that I mentioned earlier that I was talking so much smack about, but never expected for this film to be that good. My number 3, I'm just going to put her out there, Coco. This film was just so emotional. It was such a beautiful tale. And the thing that really centered this movie the most, that made it so amazing and just phenomenal in general, was just the storytelling of Miguel, who goes to the dead realm, the Day of the Dead, and he's on a mission to learn who his long grandfather was, because Miguel, with his family who's in the shoe industry, Miguel doesn't want to be a part of that. Miguel wants to be playing music because he was inspired by his great-great-grandfather, who you thought no one was, Ramses. But no, it was not who you thought it was. But yeah, it was just the whole storytelling in general that changed everything for Miguel and his family in general. It was just not only beautiful, but it was a tearjerker within a lot of the scenes that happened. Remember Me, an original tune like that, is so beautiful. But yeah, that scene itself was just so emotional. Best scene of the whole entire year. Along with the quote, I can't remember how it goes, but it involves family. Beautiful. But yeah, Coco, folks, number 3. Coming in at number 2 is a movie that, to me, is considered the best original screenplay of the whole entire year, because I went in this movie blind, and I was not expecting what this film was going to be about, but let me tell you, from all the twists and turns, especially what this film was centering around to believable situations and relating to actual events that goes on in modern times, to a case that doesn't end up being either solved, or police not doing a thing about it, or a woman who will either will do actual physical things to get closure, or will continue going on and will not rest till their situation is resolved. But everything, it was just the whole suspense, the storytelling and there was also 2 stories going on to an extent at the same time that was just wow. And this movie, I want to know what happens next, because this film sadly ended up on a cliffhanger, and I want to know what happens next. I want to see a sequel to this movie. I want to know what happens next, along with how a lot of the actors in some of the movies that this film reminded me of. I'll say right now, of those 2 movies that this one reminded me of, it reminded me a little bit of The Green Mile and Shawshank Redemption. Why? Because of certain scenes that happened and certain characters that was in this film, of how they came off, reminded me of those 2 films. Now, I'm not going to spoil what it is. My number 2 is 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. This movie was just so freaking phenomenal. I just don't know how to continue in words, because it's just a film you just have to go in blind to see. Everything was so believable to all the events that happened. It was just, I just don't know how to explain it no more, because you just have to go in and see this movie blind. But yes, that is my number 2. And my number 1, best film of 2017. Now, I made a post on the network asking people to please guess what is my best film of 2017. A lot of people got it right. And they sure knew me well enough, because I saw this movie quite a few times, and boy, oh boy, I couldn't get enough of it, because this film was a revolutionary game changer to give war films in general a new perspective within filming, writing, editing, keep that in mind, and most of all, storytelling in general. I haven't seen a phenomenal movie to keep to present times. I haven't seen such a phenomenal war movie that was just great storytelling since Saving Private Ryan. Full Metal Jacket was phenomenal, but if I had to choose between Full Metal Jacket and Saving Private Ryan, I would have to give it to Saving Private Ryan because that film was unbelievable. But since Saving Private Ryan, to keep up with modern times, I have not seen a superb, masterful, modern-day masterpiece centering around storytelling that involves a true life event that happened. And I tell you all right now, my number one best film of 2017 goes to Dunkirk. It was a revolutionary game changer of storytelling and filming of anything surrounding war in general. Once the movie started showcasing the title, it just goes right into the action of what the film is about, what it's doing, and very little dialogue, which is understandable because it was just mostly visual storytelling of the events that happened. It was completely horrifying, and one thing that Christopher Nolan did, this is his award and rightfully made this movie so... It's a modern day masterpiece. It really is, and definitely you can say is Christopher Nolan's best film today. I mean, comparing to Inception and the Dark Knight trilogy and Memento, name some of his other phenomenal pieces. Yeah, this one can be really up there because Nolan, the camera that he used, he just said fuck that. It was like a close to $500,000 camera. He just he broke the damn thing. Yeah, he did. He used legit practical effects, real boats, real missiles, real everything. It was all practical effects. And by the way, for some people out there who were complaining, Grace Randolph, fuck you, saying that this film was boring, feminist, or whatever she said, the reason why, because a lot of the stuff happened because it was true. And Christopher Nolan kept true to what the story was, giving that in-depth, dark, scary and emotional event that happened of the real Battle of Dunkirk, and he stuck true and showcased it, and it made you feel like you were legitimately there, because obviously it was so fucking believable. You couldn't really get over of the events that happened. It was just heartbreaking, especially all the soldiers who were stuck in that area. They couldn't do anything. They really couldn't. They were stuck. They didn't know what to do. They couldn't do anything. So yeah, this movie was just a game changer. It was revolutionary. Some of the best practical effects I've seen, and definitely the best modern day war film I've seen since Saving Private Ryan. So yeah, folks, that is my best films of 2017. Please let me know down in the comments. What is your top 5, top 10, or top 15 best films of 2017? I would love to know down in the comments. So as always, folks, stay tuned tomorrow for the worst films of 2017.